Oh, guys. All right, first off, welcome to another week of Have Serious. I fucked up. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I am learning as I go with this thing. So, you guys will have a few minutes of good audio with our guest, and then his audio will kind of go to shit. Not complete shit. Like, you could still tell what he's saying. He just doesn't sound as, I want to say girthier, but that is not the right term. It doesn't sound as good as it should. I apparently unhooked the mic, like hit it with my hand, and I thought I had fixed it, but the audio just went straight to my computer instead. So you can tell what he's saying, but I thoroughly apologize for my mistake. I am going to fix that shit and hopefully not make that mistake again. Or at least not 3 more times. Maybe just a couple more times. All that being said, our guest today is a retired deputy chief. He went through all different ranks, all this other stuff in the department that he worked in. He has different perspectives than some of the guests we've had before. And by that, I just mean we talk about different topics. And no matter where you are in the department, there are most departments that are of a certain size. There's 1,000 different jobs that you can do just as an officer in that department, to not even include the different ranks. So I feel like the more experience you have moving around in the different ranks and the different squads, the better perspective you'll have as a department as a whole. And I feel like that's vitally important if you're going to move up in rank, is to get as much experience in the different units instead of just being the expert. Now, there are room for experts and there should be experts, but if you are wanting to move up, then I think it is good for the department as a whole for you to have experience in all areas that you can. So he brings that to the table, and we also talk about finances, which we haven't talked about yet on this podcast, not for real. And that is a huge burden on people in the first responder realm because, newsflash, we don't get paid that fucking much. But yes, please go out there and put your life on the line for all this stuff. But we're going to give you just enough to buy your groceries. So go get it. Am I a little disgruntled over that? Yes. But because I just think that that's an unnecessary stressor to put on these people. We demand so much of them, and then we're going to pay them just enough to get by half the time, unless you work a bunch of overtime, but then you don't get to decompress. So that's why our life expectancy is so much lower than the normal Joe out there. But I'm getting on a soapbox before our guest is even on. So as usual, I'm going to shut up, and here is our guest. Damn, mine doesn't even taste that strong anymore.
Oh, that's what I call a sign. Alcoholic. No, I'm just kidding.
Tastes fine. I think I put too much Sprite in it. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
You are retired from our department after how many years? How many years were you there for?
28 and a month.
So you went wait, I can't do math. 3 years and a month over the needed time.
Yeah, 3 years and a month.
Damn. See, I thought 17, I was like, man, I was thinking 17 was a lot when I left. I was like, all right, 17, that's a lot. And then I think about that. I'm like, 11 more years than what I did. Damn. But
it seems like a lot, but when you see people twice your age, well, not twice your age now, but
yeah,
at that 17-year mark, you see people twice your age. You've got a lot of life left, you know.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I was going to mention this earlier, but I remember the first time where I met you and remembered you, like, because, you meet a lot of people when you first start out. So the first time that I met you, I was down South Precinct for some interview or something back when Major Crimes was down there. So everybody interviewed everybody down there. And I'm standing there, like, watching this person. And I remember what rank you were. You're obviously ahead of me in rank, whatever it was, because I was still an officer. So I think you were a new sergeant, maybe, at the time. And I'm watching somebody, and you walk by, and you fart so fucking loud.
Did I?
Yes! And I was like, what the hell? And I look over at you, and you go, ha, enjoy that, see ya. And you walk off. And I was like, what the hell? But I was at the same time, I was like, you just treated me like you did anybody else. I was like, this is kind of awesome, but also cracked me up. Like, I was laughing. I was like,
I'm speechless right now.
You
I do
don't
not remember that.
I
You
didn't
sure
think
that
you
was
would.
me?
I'm 1,000% it
Okay.
was you, because that was the first day I met you, and I, like, remembered who you were, because I didn't go down South Precinct a lot because I was West, but, I was fairly new, and I was like it's
Um,
so hard, but I was like, "Hey, I'm one of everybody. I'm like everybody else."
I don't know what to say. I mean, you started this off like you got me there.
Oh,
I don't
sorry. I didn't mean to, like,
I don't
embarrass you.
remember, and maybe I did that all the time, and I have no idea.
You don't Oh, okay. You didn't know
No,
that you did that all
I don't remember. Now my coworkers may say different. I don't know.
Well, I'll have to take a, what is it called? A survey and,
No, don't do that, because there may be other things, you know, that
yeah, that'll come from it. Well, you know what? Either way, you made a positive impression upon me. It was like, oh, I'm one of the gang, because the whole time back then there wasn't that many girl cops, right? There wasn't that many of them. It was like one a shift or some shit. So I just liked it because you treated me like everybody else. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
yeah. Now I can see myself treating you a way that I don't want you to feel intimidated or closed up
No,
when you're around. So you're right on that point.
because you
You are
were
right about that. Now the other, I don't recall it.
okay. Well, you know what? I have probably false memories from different things. Maybe I
I'm not going to
wouldn't.
deny it. It's possible.
Either way, it was a positive, impactful moment for me. So thank you for that, even if it didn't actually happen. But that was the first time that I'd met you, that I remember meeting you officially. And I'll say that, and I try to give people compliments because I feel like people don't get enough of them, but I've never had a negative um, instance with you in the professional realm or personal realm or whatever. You're always very respectful and tried to communicate the best that you could given different restrictions and crap that we all had to operate under. All that to say, thank you. I appreciate you and all that you've done. In case nobody's told you that in a long time, because I feel like the higher you
Am
go
I
in rank.
supposed to cry this early in the podcast?
No, shut
What?
up, dude. I'm giving you a compliment.
Okay.
Just take the compliment and say, thank you. Yeah, you're right. It was amazing.
You know, there's a way to get the best out of someone
Mm-hmm.
without making them feel like crap,
Yeah.
even if they're doing something that doesn't measure to your standard or whatever. So what
Mm-hmm.
you saying that makes me feel good. Means that my intentions in how I did my job, even that far back, were
Mm-hmm.
well received.
Yeah.
Because there's so many in the job that I don't know how they intend things, but they straight up don't have the communication skills.
Mm-mm.
And
Or the
it's
clout.
obvious, you know.
Or the clout to back up what they're trying to sell. And it's
We
like,
could
dude,
talk all day about that.
yeah. Speaking of talking all day, where you've had a very long career in different rank, is there specific topic that you want to start on, or would you just like me to shoot you questions?
Um, Maybe just start on what I'm doing now. I'm working with my son. He owns a business, Blossomwood Building Company. It is a business that builds residential things, outdoor spaces, remodeling, additions, and he's been doing that on his own for about 5 years. He's 27.
Damn.
Yeah, and he's doing pretty good, so much so that if you try to book him and get an
Mhm.
estimate and then all the way to beginning a project, it could be a couple months out, but,
Mhm.
uh
Does he have a website and everything
he
that's up
does,
already?
blossomwoodbuildingcompany.com.
Okay.
I have just tried to start a social media campaign. It's gonna take a little time because I just got in the office. I'm trying to learn how he does things, and he's not in the office a lot. He's always gone. But now he
Yeah.
has a couple people he's hired recently. 2 ladies are in the office helping me. One does estimation, and another one helps with operations. So there's a lot going on there, and the bandwidth is really small right now, and it's gonna take a while. So,
Yeah, you seem
but,
like, I know I said this earlier, but like you're one of the few that I've seen quickly make that healthy transition over to civilian life. Chaz, which I didn't expect him to do it. I've told this to his face. I expected him to go civilian life and just be like, fucking hate it. But he loves it. He's thriving. He's doing better than ever. And I'd say same for
I'm
you.
really happy to hear that for him because he did really well that last several years of his career.
Mhm.
He made a lot of great strides, but to that point in law enforcement, you've gotta come in knowing at the end you are gonna retire, you are gonna leave, and there's things to keep yourself physically, mentally, and financial healthy, and you've gotta do those things. You gotta
Yeah.
start then, even if they're in the micro, you gotta do something, and that's what I did, so I appreciate that. If I'm putting out that image, it's because I did those things, and I started the day I got an academy, $24,000 a year. The wife was making $9 an hour at a co-op job. She was pregnant. Um, I knew then I was like, okay, one day I'm going to leave this job. She's going to leave hers. I want to be ready
Mhm.
the day that I have your time in. I want to be ready to go, and financially that is. So we did a lot of things in our life that helped that. It just so happens I really enjoyed my job. I continue staying past that 25th year. So I think that's something that law enforcement is missing is that there's a lot of push for the mental health and wellness, and that is
Yeah.
great. But I think some of the things that trigger that mental health and wellness from trauma is financial stress at home that nobody talks about, the credit card debt, buying the new rides and paying $800,000 vehicle payments when you're
Mhm.
25. Go ahead and get in a boat because you got a free apartment. Now you can afford all this stuff. Why are you doing that?
Mhm.
Why aren't you taking that $1,000 and starting some type of investment fund? You don't have to have a lot of knowledge to do that. It's those little seeds that help you in the end when you retire. That's the kind of things that I did as I went through the department. Loved police work, but also knew
Yeah.
that you got to have a vision to see um, long term. And I think a lot of young golfers, because this draws adrenaline junkies. It does. I'm an adrenaline
Oh,
junkie,
yeah.
like yourself and everyone else that you've talked with. We love the job. There's got to be a side of you that can plan long term. If you don't plan long term, you set yourself up during your career for an additional financial stress because you don't know how to manage your money. Then you set yourself up for additional mental stress going in the job, can't pay your bills. Now you're working all these part time jobs. So,
Cool. Did you put it in, like, a long-term saving, or how'd you divvy it?
yeah. Okay. So, in the beginning, when you're making that little kind of money I just described,
Yeah.
it's just having a budget
Yeah.
and then having a spouse, or if you're single, it's even better, of
Yeah.
course. But if you have a spouse working with them and saying, hey, I see a vision. I have this vision. I want us to retire at X. Look, we won't even be 50.
Mhm.
And if we do these things along the way, we can do that. Well, what is that? Well, live below our means. I know that is like a revolutionary thing, but you
Mhm.
don't spend more than you make. And that's hard to do. And I'm not saying I'm perfect and we have not done that, but the average American has X dollars amount of credit card debt throughout their entire life, and it increases. That average increases
Yeah.
uh, over time if you go look at that, and that is something that we dealt with right from the beginning. One of the first things I did, as all young couples do, is we're having to find a place to live. We rented a place. Luckily, it was with family, and it was actually my in-laws, her parents had a second house and it was cheap rent. And I said, "We need to take advantage of this. They're only charging us X. We need to buy a piece of real estate."
Mhm.
And for a while, there was a little bit of, tug of war because there's that little cushion, that little extra money you might have. It's like, "No, let's buy a new car." I said, "No, no, 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 no. Let's buy a piece of land." And that's one of the first things we did. We bought a little 2-acre plot, 23 years old, and then it's like, "Oh god, that's a lot of money." It's like, "Well, just hold on, there's a plan. Let's just hang on to it. Maybe we'll build a house there. If not, we can't rent here forever. It's not gonna happen." But that's how I got started. Started with a piece of real estate, and, that's where I'm at today. Own a lot of real estate, and that was like I said, one of the little seeds that I planted.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that shit when I was 20 something about buying a piece of land because that stuff's not like it's gonna depreciate.
Right.
I just did the what is it? Deferred no. What is it called? The
Deferred
deferred comp?
compensation.
Yeah.
The city
Which
has a good plan with that. It's just, um You said you put some in it, or
Yeah, but I didn't know there
did you
was supposed
cash
to be
out when you left, or
I put it into my, retirement now. I flipped it over, so now it's in my
Oh, okay. So that is a really good plan, and I encourage all new young officers to do that. But the problem is they don't understand how to utilize it. Like go in, set up the app, look at all the funds, what's high risk, low risk,
Mhm.
medium risk. If you're in your 20s, you need to go all in.
Yeah,
And this is speaking in hindsight. I should have did 100% high risk
yeah,
and just stayed put.
yeah.
I did not. So I wanted to diversify our investments. That's why I had the real estate first. And then when I got into deferred comp, I was very conservative with it. I think I was putting $20 in, and I increased it gradually over time, uh, just a little bit. I may have got up to close to $100, but when 9/11 hit, that destroyed my confidence in, maybe that wasn't the right thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had some very senior supervisor friends that had a lot of money in that fund. And when 9/11 hit, if you remember the chaos in our agency, of course, that affected a lot of things. And that deferred comp was one of them.
Yeah.
This particular one person that had a lot of money, six figures in that account, he lost a lot of money and he told me about it. I immediately stopped putting into it. And that was the wrong thing. Now, like I said, I diversified. I still had the land,
Yeah.
and I stopped putting into that, and in my young mind, I thought, "Oh, we'll continue doing the real estate." We flipped that, we bought a farm, actually owned by another coworker, bought that from him, held on to that. We, like, leased that land for a little bit, but, um and then it hit me, I don't know, maybe 15 years of my career, it's like, I should have left that money in there. I should have kept putting money into it. Because why? The market comes back. I
Yeah.
mean, what goes up must come down. Well, in the stock market, it's the same way. What goes down, it is going to come back up unless the companies sell off and there's transitions, behind the scenes with that. But I really regret. So I started putting in again,
Mhm.
into that fund about 6 years ago. Not all in. I think I may have put $50 a check or something.
Yeah.
But when I retired, I was watching it that last year, and I almost quadrupled the amount that I was putting in, and my account was almost quadrupled what I'd put in over the entire 28-year career.
Yeah.
And I just felt a sense of shame, like, if I had, been more tenacious and stuck with it,
Mhm.
and kept my money in there, um, I'd had more of an investment. Then you have those in the gallery that will say, "Well, why do you need to invest all that money?" It's like, "Okay, wait
Mhm.
until you're there." I had 2 parents who I love dearly that lived 2 different financial lives. They loved each other so much, they got married twice, by the way, together.
I was gonna say
But I had to take care of them, and I'm kinda jumping ahead into probably topics that we'll talk about later, but, um, I watched how in my adulthood while working in the department, taking care of them in their retirement, they live 2 different financial lives, and that really inspired me. It's like, I gotta double
Mhm.
down. I gotta double down. I know my wife was tired of hearing me say that, but when you're taking care of a parent that literally owns nothing, literally.
That's what scares me now, financially speaking, is what if I have dementia like my mom at 60, almost well, she's just turned 70, I think, 70 years old. And Jesus, that's young. And my kid to have to carry that stuff. That was the motivation to be like, all right, I got to figure out where my investments are. So, she doesn't have the stress of that. And I know you went through it too.
Yeah, the dementia, that's a whole nother topic, but
Yeah.
she had a life, uh, I don't speak too negatively about her. She just didn't plan a lot. She spent money, had credit cards.
Mm,
So I don't say that in a negative way, like, only in a sense I learned a lesson from that. Because then, in retrospect, I'm looking ahead to my kids and what I want
mhm.
for them. I don't want them to have to, have nothing to take care of me,
Yeah.
you know? I don't think that's selfish now when people say, money's not everything. It's not.
It's freedom.
It is in a sense, but I think, you know, you should be a good steward with the money you earn over your life, you know?
Mm. Surprised you never went the narc route. That's
I
why I
did.
was
I put
always
in for it several times just to get selected. I really won't go into why I think I wasn't, but anyway,
You
uh,
can't say it now, it's been so long.
I was a little introverted. Looking back, I think maybe was not as outgoing, off duty, and things like that. And that's fine. That's cool. I got it.
Yeah.
But I'm just that's just the way I am. I come to work and I work. Put me to work.
Yeah,
When we're off work, no, I'm good.
that's
I'm
true.
not coming
It's
to hang out at your house or anything like that. It's just the way I am. It also had kids very early, you know, like we were
oh,
discussing
yeah.
earlier. So I had no it just wasn't it wasn't something I wanted to do, and I understand there has to be a bond to trust one another, and I had those bonds on my squads that I worked with, so I was
Mhm.
able to work very fluidly, getting those guns and drugs off the street, being in dangerous situations,
Yeah.
and having that bond, but I also understand as those units, you know, naturally are, they want people selected they know and have operated with, and I
Mhm.
got it, but anyway, uh
Yeah, it's
I
a good
found myself in DUI, and the only reason I tell you I put in for that was it just gave me a wider scope to do the things I wanted to do, and that was the whole
oh,
city. I
yeah.
drove the whole city.
Yeah.
And actually, it had gotten so bad that that sergeant at the time when I got in there, you know, had brought me in and said, "Hey, look, I need you to decide, you know, you going to do DUI or are you going to do all this other stuff?" And I'm like, "I know." That's fine. What have I done? He's like, "Well, you know, you're doing these stops and you mean some of these felony arrests for drugs and stuff." And I was like, okay, well, am I absent of the IRS? What's going on? And um, after we looked at it, it's like, okay, I was in the top three of the unit at the time of DUI, so what's the problem?
Yeah, well, what's the problem? Oh, you're doing other things.
And so it was more about when I found something, if, for example, it's the DUI,
Yeah.
I would look for something else.
Yeah.
Or I would use the stop and information I got from that stop to do further police work. And that's what drives me. It's that investigative component. Think about how
Mhm.
difficult it it I take that back. It may be a little bit now, the DRE part of it,
Yeah.
because all of them I think are certified and they should be. But well, I guess what I'm saying
Oh, well,
is
you wanna explain what DRE is for those that don't understand?
drug recognition expert.
Mm.
So it's definitely something that is needed in our city because, you know, alcohol is not the only thing that somebody can become intoxicated, inebriated with.
Yeah.
There's other drugs, and detecting them, and then detecting that, and then testifying on it is a science. But anyway, I use DUI as a way to just get into more if I wanted to solo because nobody would
Yeah.
have me on their unit, right?
Yeah, I don't which surprises
And
me.
at the same time, when I did those things,
Yeah.
I wasn't in IA all the time. I wasn't in these, you know, use of force problem
Mhm.
situations that got scrutinized and still was up there in stats. So, but to answer your or to reply back your statement about being in traffic, it wasn't that I chose to. It's just like that's all you're gonna
Yeah.
help me do this. What I did, I learned to utilize what was given to me, and I'm gonna make the best of it. And so that's what I did. And I love being in that unit, but patrol I think is where it's at. I'm not officers lose sight of that. I love
Yeah.
patrol. I love patrol. You could be a shade tree cop,
Mhm.
or you can go here and actually work. And I chose to work.
Yeah. I'd I'd say I like the early 2000s street cop. I don't know if I'd like doing it now. I don't know. But I also think that cell phones and the way that people can just watch movies and shit on their cell phone has really hindered people's relationships. Because like, used to be like, you'd meet up with somebody, quote, unquote, 65 with them, and you just, like, talk for whatever, and you bullshit, and now you'd be like, "Let's go find something," you drive off. Now it's like, "Oh, let me Netflix," or, "Let me do something on my phone."
Yeah, that's a good
Mm.
point.
People don't get as tight. I don't know, maybe they do, but I don't feel like they did when
Would
I
you
was
say
there.
officers aren't as close or
Yeah, like, I don't feel like they 65 and it's like like you meet up and you just go into the depths of your soul all of a sudden, and then you like go off and do something and catch
That's
some dope.
possible, and maybe I just can't relate to it. It's a cultural or generational thing, but
Mhm.
I will say again, back to just any, um, work ethic or lack thereof is gonna drive that.
Yeah.
I mean, even though Netflix is available, for example,
Yeah.
you could still have that one guy or girl that is driven that's just not gonna
Oh, yeah.
use their downtime to watch it. They're gonna work, and they're gonna
Mhm.
work responsibly and produce and do what, what the uniform was designed to do. Community police, make a few proactive arrests, uh, and just have fun doing the job.
So what do you I feel like this is a completely open question, there's 1,000 answers for it, but so what do you think the downfall is in policing, and not even just locally, just like country as a whole? We're all just making assumptions, but what do you think that it
Um,
is?
I think that has like some that has a multifaceted answer, but
Mhm.
at the top of the list for me, in my opinion, I think they're not pulling in those that still have the calling to do the
Mhm.
job, and maybe they're trying too hard. I know money again is not everything, but you cannot ignore it. The longer you ignore it, the longer you have to have dancing cop ads, the longer you have to have pizzazz in your marketing, the longer you have, and the more money you have to spend on your quote unquote marketing,
Mhm.
the numbers won't lie when they see the numbers of the salary. And when you hit your top out pay, that's very important here, that's not going to lie. These folks that live in this generation are not dumb. They're looking at these videos, and some of them may like that, but in my generation, it's like, you got suspended for that.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, someone we know that you might know who I'm speaking of that is working somewhere else now, is actually doing really well, got suspended for dancing at a hospital
Yeah.
in uniform. And that's what you see. So the downfall to me is we're trying so hard in marketing the recruiting thing and doing all these
Mhm.
crazy things. But where are we at with the numbers? Where are you
Yeah.
at with the salaries? Where are you at with teaching cops how to use their money to
Mhm.
get? Are we? I'm not talking about a 30 minutes, 15-minute discussion of here's our deferred comp person. You should throw $20 in there and you'll have 500,000 your retirement.
Yeah.
That's not going to inspire them.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, give them a longer session in the academy and then reoccurring like you do with any of the mental health and wellness stuff in in-service.
Mhm.
Talk to them about financial wellness. But again, the numbers aren't going to lie. The salaries across the country. I remember when not long after I got my last promotion, um, it was right after the FBI and A Academy. And again, money's not everything, but it cannot be ignored. I remember looking at the number and the salary and in the range and all that at that pay grade. And I reverted back to many guys that I talked to at NA. There was a captain in this state making more, just a little bit more than the top out in my current grade. And I was trying to
Damn.
comprehend, like, how is that possible when this is such, a revered and highly sought out city after many
Yeah.
things, not just to live here, but
'Cause
to
this
work
is
within the city and be a city employee. I was trying, I was, and don't get me wrong, it's not that I envy that. It was I wanted to understand the disparity. Why does the disparity exist? So
Mhm.
there's several arguments to that. You hear, "Oh, we're a bigger city. We have more employees than the person you're talking to." Oh, okay. Well, that was destroyed by another city that raised all their salaries, and we know who that city was,
Yeah.
and gave bonuses to be higher. Um, but again, I think the downfall is it's a combination of they're trying so hard, they're not looking at the numbers, and that's
Do you
where
think
they.
they're not looking at them, or there's just, like, a dismissiveness to it?
You know, I don't know what it takes to or what drives the economic engine for running a city. So I'll uh, defend them on that. But I would want to understand, okay, well then what are you doing to allocate the
Mhm.
resources so that you can put numbers and shift them around to where public safety might be a little more competitive and attractive on paper
Yeah.
for that top out salary. So somebody doesn't go somewhere else.
Mhm.
Um,
I'll say in all my research when we were proposing several different pay grades and stuff, and the highest obviously wasn't taken. They're like, "We'll take this because 'cause it'll appease." Um, but I through all the research, I've never found a successful city with an underpaid police department because it goes hand in hand. So
and
that's
look,
the part that worries
I
me.
I am completely grateful for the career that I had.
Yeah.
They do give a very modest salary range. All I'm saying is for the caliber of folks that equivalently work where else in the city, this is a city full of engineers, and I think per capita, like the highest PhD population we have, this kind
Yep.
of thing. So,
Yep.
okay, well, we also require a lot from the officers that work in the city. When you require more, I think we should pay them more. Or if you have a certain historical standard, and you know what that is. We do have a historical standard for work in this city. Let's let that number reflect that
Yeah.
and reflect that again, comparable to other cities within the state that aren't holding a standard or that have a history of not holding a standard.
Being one of the biggest cities now in the area, I'll say that much. I would expect it to reflect it, and the fact that it doesn't, I'm just wondering where was it more important to spend that money? But I'm not asking like you of that, I'm just
Yeah.
curious, I'm just putting it out there into
Well,
the
I
ether, you
will
know?
I will say I do understand at the grand scheme of things, at that whatever 30,000 foot view, there are a lot of parts within a city you have to make public safety successful. It's not just public safety
Yeah,
itself. It's job opportunities. It's uh, the management of all the other different departments and how they interact with public safety. You don't have
yeah,
a great interaction with all those departments. But all in all, I'm just saying, I think all of that was being looked at once. And then when other departments across the country started upping their game, I think we just got lucky. The city has gotten lucky that we don't have the crime right now that a lot of them do. I'm very grateful for that because that's because of people like ourselves that have worked there that were not there. But I think all it would take is certain criminals being in our city or starting
mhm,
um, an organization that uh, all of a sudden started. We had a spree of certain things happening, and then it would, okay, response times and the amount of
mhm,
investigative time. Like it would start, light bulbs would start going off. It's like, we're a little understaffed. Okay, well, what do we need to do to
yeah.
up that staff? And again, I think that's going to be salaries.
I think it's a little too late at that. I mean, it would take so long to actually get those people trained up and then push them out there. I would really appreciate as just a regular citizen now here, proactively approaching that, you know, because I feel like right now it's gonna be retrograde, like, "Oh my god, the gangs are now here." Or like, we have gangs here, but you know what I mean? Like, something that really has, um, put themselves, put roots here in the city. So I would appreciate some proactive approach to that, but again, not my decisions or anything, so Um, but I do know that it was some class I took way early when I was a narc, and they said that the only reason that there wasn't a serious different gangs that had taken put up roots here is because how proactive the police department was, and that was through several different interviews with different gangs and stuff like that that they had located. They said this is a very proactive police department. Don't want to go there. Depending on who you recruit and what they do, the proactivity will start diminishing. So I hope that that's nothing that takes place since I do live around here. But that's something that always kind of stuck with me. I'm like, proactivity really does work, you know?
It does. Proactivity, since you're on that topic,
Hmm.
I think that's something that has to be inspired. You should have a chain of command beginning with a sergeant, of course, that inspires that. But it's up to the individual officer to actually do that proactivity, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
based on what? Their experience, their knowledge, their training, and work ethic. You could all you gotta do is be missing one of those. You could have the work ethic, but be missing the knowledge, and now you're gonna be a
Yeah.
sergeant and lieutenant captain's nightmare.
Mhm.
You can have all the knowledge in the world and be great, pen to paper with everything, but then not have the work ethic. So
Yeah.
now you have a guy that's just they're writing tickets all the time or just answering their calls, or a girl. Proactivity is what is, um, naturally it starts to fall because of staffing.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, maybe that's part of why not necessarily saying us, but other departments don't staff because they know these young officers are gonna start working.
Mhm. So being a deputy chief when you left out, or DC, whatever it is we wanna coin it, um, what failures or mishaps, or a lighter term if you wanna use it, um, did you see as you grew through the ranks? Like, for example, I at some point, I thought that somebody was gonna be there and kinda start leading me or tell me like, "Hey, this is actually the complicated version of why we're doing this." But the more I got into those rooms with the people, the more I realized that I was gonna say, the more I realized that they don't really have the input or the decisions or the all the information or anything, and I felt lonelier the higher I got up.
That has a lot again, a lot of
Like,
there's a lot
yeah.
of there's a lot to that. Um, I think within a chain of command, there has to be a level of inspiration that's maintained.
Mhm,
All right. The chief of police himself, in this case, he cannot reach down and inspire or energize or what have you the
mhm,
sergeant, the officer or the sergeant lieutenant. Now he can have conversations at times, whether especially in difficult situations, whether it's a shooting or what have you, to instill whatever momentary inspiration or
mhm,
hey, you did a good job or hey, but what could happen is that line level, it does it flows up and down, but that line level of supervision should be inspiring you to do the right thing or teach you a new thing or, "Hey, you messed up here." And so along my career up to that point, I just felt a little bit like some of that energy gets, sucked out of you to a point.
mhm,
You're managing or looking down at so many people that you've got to partition off and carve out time that is useful. If you have someone that you know is not accepting of that energy, as you can't give it, you're wasting your time.
yeah,
So, um, I don't know if that's like happened to you, like you felt you wanted that energy and you weren't getting it or what have
mhm,
you. Yeah, I'm sorry that's happened, but I know what that feels like. So it's more about inspiring those people below you. And it can only, like I said, using him as an example, he can, there's 700 below him, so it has to start somewhere. So what I did find was that uh, when it came promotion time, I was always curious as to what we did for follow up,
mhm,
and I was only over a side of that department when the operations towards the end there. But what I try to do to inspire and energize with have as many phone calls or drop by and visit when I could,
yeah,
or if there's a difficult moment that was occurring, don't just be overcritical.
mhm,
Give a solution. Yeah, be critical. Man, you shouldn't have done that. But then, okay, here's what you could have done.
yep,
I've also learned that past experiences before you got promoted gave way to how you handled things as a supervisor. If you didn't do a lot in your career,
mhm,
your ability to supervise is limited. I'm not saying you're not gonna be a good supervisor. I'm just saying your work ethic as an officer, is your work ethic as a sergeant, is your work ethic as a lieutenant, and
yep,
so on, and so on, and so on. So, if you did not do a lot, you didn't go to a lot of calls, you did not deal with a lot of the things that some of these officers deal with and in the wide range of things they deal with, uh, your ability to connect, relate, talk to, walk through, help and inspire. them is going to be limited. So throughout my career, that's what actually started draining me a little bit. Is I was like, man, this proactivity drops, and you have pockets of folks that have not done as much as you and see or done and seen as much as you have. So your ability
Mhm.
to relate is like, okay, I
Yep.
don't think this is getting
Yeah.
through, you know. So
What, before I go into this, I do want where were you when Billy was shot or
mm,
murdered?
that's um I was in my office as a PO,
That's okay.
listening to the radio, and it made it the team were on a back channel before it came
Mhm.
out. I don't know how that went down, or if someone was listening on the back channel and put it out, or if they had an officer nearby that put it on main. But
Yeah,
it
it
just
either.
came over main, and that's how I remember the day and running out of the building and reverting back to you know uh, the Freeman
Mhm.
incident, the Golden incident. Um, uh, Keith Earl was just a year before that. And as a PIO, I had at that point a good year's worth of experience with media, which, by the way, I did not necessarily want to do that job. But
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
glad I
rough
did.
job.
And all I could think about is, God, this is the little nuanced things like, okay, got to think about the family.
Mhm.
Okay, you got to do. I was already in that mode before I left the building, and then trying to communicate with the chief and my peer, lieutenant, who helped me a good bit on that scene. But that's where I was. I was inside the office, and we were actually winding down for the day. That was near the end of the day. I'm gonna say around 4 o'clock.
Yeah, because I was on second shift, and it was fairly beginning of shift. Because
Maybe it was 3:30, 4 o'clock somewhere. So one of the first things I was thinking about was his family. And then I thought about the team
yeah.
and what can we do to put together the right message in the beginning. City communications sent someone out to help us, and I think they handled social media while the media came out, and
Mhm.
I was just trying to get a basic story, which the story I was getting wasn't totally correct. And in their defense, they're busy, they're in grief.
Yeah.
They already know he's 10-7. Like the 10-7 happened 2 hours ago,
Yeah.
but we haven't given a complete message that, and rightfully so, there was a lot of moving parts to that. So, um, yeah, that was tough, but, to be honest, I was happy that I was a PIO with the moment that that happened
Yeah.
because I was able to help, the chief and deputy chiefs in that situation with how we handled the media, and
Yeah.
they were completely hands off at that time. They all went to the hospital, and we handled business. So,
I'll say I would, and I only brought it up because I saw what you did, on the news that night, and I was happy. I was so happy to have you as a PIO because I feel like you represented the department really well. And again, I was in the mix of all that in the hallways and everything, but it was, yeah, it was a mess. But I love seeing you addressing it, and I think all the guys and stuff like that respond well to you being on there and you giving out the message as opposed to the command at the time, because there when Crumpy was murdered, that was fucking horrible. Nobody could hear what was being said or anything, and luckily, and I'll say his name since he was on here before, but Tucker got up there and was asked to speak some, and he spoke eloquently, as country as he is. He spoke eloquently and great to all the guys. Um, so thank you for doing what you did with Billy, because I think that you did a really good job with that, and that's a hard
thanks.
thing to do.
Yeah, it was tough. I went to high school with Billy.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well,
Back to the introvert, there's a lot of things about me, uh, and he was my go-to CRO at North while I was up there, but, yeah, we went to high school together. But, I was glad that I had an opportunity to be the one involved in that moment because I over my career, I've enjoyed being in moments that I know others would look at as difficult.
yeah.
That was a tough one.
Did you did they brief you? Because I don't, they offered or they talked about PIO, and it's like I don't want to do that. I don't like doing that kind of stuff because I know how well it seems really difficult. what did you do with that? Did you just kind of put your emotions to aside and then just freaking addressed it and just did the facts of it? Or how do you even do that crap? Because that would be hard.
Yeah.
I fucking avoided the media. I saw them there and I was like, I'm going to run this other way and pretend like I'm doing something important because I don't want to sit in my car and have a fucking second before I go back to the hospital. But
You got to understand that, you know, citizens and city leaders and other important people in our
yeah,
community, even the politicians that involve themselves in law enforcement that want to help us, they want to know what's going on.
yeah,
And they may be communicating with someone, they may not be, but the media is one of their outlets to understand what's going on. Uh, I look at it as a challenge to, hey, we're going to be transparent. And the first goal is to not say anything or do anything that hurts a future investigation. Again, back to
mm-hmm,
past experience.
yeah,
If you don't have the knowledge, if you don't know, the elements of or the fundamentals of police work, the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure, investigative procedure, the rules of evidence in court, if you don't understand those as a whole, it is going to kill you when it comes time to deal with media. It's going to kill you when you have to face your peers or investigations or those in the chain of command that now in hindsight are like, man, why'd you say that? It's like,
mm-hmm,
look, now we got to do a criminal interview on this guy, and you just announced element X that has taken that off the table for us. So I felt comfortable doing that. It was again because I I really put myself out there as a patrol officer. I made those mistakes, got further education. I didn't mind learning from other officers. That's another thing we could talk about. There's so many, officers that isolate themselves. You talk about watching Netflix.
yeah,
There's so many things you can learn from being around others, and that is another thing. Through the growth of the department, it seems like sometimes it's hey, don't talk with them, stay away from them. It's like, no, you got something to learn from everybody. It
yeah,
doesn't mean you have to get off work and go to their whatever shindig they're having, but while you're at work, spend some time with them. They
mm-hmm,
may have something resourceful for you to listen to and utilize. Uh, so that whole experience all the way up to being I was very comfortable with it, and happy that I could do it. Again, I didn't like being in front of cameras. That was not what I wanted to do, and I actually told the chief that when he asked me to do that job, but, I took it as a challenge after I saw what I could, uh, produce in that role. So
yeah. Well, you did well at it. And I won't even say the person's name, but I wish that I'd saved the video because I know one person that's being a PIO and I don't know if he was bleeding or what, something was going on with his head. And there was just blood
who
going
was it?
in. We'll call him Tupper. He was PIO for a while and he looked like an angry mushroom talking at the time. And it was awesome. But yeah, people that do bad at that can freaking destroy cases. So
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
for doing very good at that. And
Yeah.
honestly, for being a good example for these other cops that were out there because,
Hey, look, you were a good example,
yeah.
some of the time. No.
Yeah,
Well,
I will say it on here. I know my fault. My fault is always standing up to a cause to a destructive degree. I didn't know when to stop.
that's very noble of you to say that, but
Yes.
I'm not gonna get into, you know, woulda, shoulda, coulda with your career, my career. I wanna stay positive, but I will say this, when I was a PIO, I think I was a PIO at that time, you went to, an ICP with some command staff, and you got that 40 under 40 award.
Yeah, that was Cam Brooks and
Yeah, okay.
McCarver. Yeah,
That
the point.
that was that not an amazing thing in your career? It kinda
That was
inspired us to
fun.
go
Yeah.
do that because female cops, guess what? They're frowned upon in a lot of departments or, depending on the type of female cop that you are, and I think
Yeah.
you getting that, inspired a lot of different people.
It was a cool trip, but little known fact, did you know, well, maybe you did, but that I did not get any of that paid for. The city didn't want to pay for me going down there. And my captain at the time said, screw him. And he gave me comp time to go down there or gave me other duty to go down there and do all that stuff. So I paid for my own room. I paid for my trip.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I paid for all that.
What happened?
The chief didn't like me.
He's the one that he had to sign off on you getting.
Oh, captains put me in for it, and, so I got the award, but
You got the award.
the award was awesome because then I got to go in and do all this training and do all this stuff,
Good.
and also
I mean,
just
you made national
it
media.
was freaking cool.
You were on the cover of one of their magazines for a month at least. They have 12. There's 12 months in a year, so don't get caught.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was a small picture.
I think you were. You made the cover of whatever.
Sports Illustrated, is that the one you're
It was October when you went. It was a November issue, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, it was a big deal, big
Well,
deal.
at least it was a cover of ICP.
Yeah, yeah, small percentage of people that read that. That's okay. Hey, I can say I was a centerfold once in my life. This one time, it might have been a professional police photo, but I was a centerfold. God damn it. But no, in all seriousness, the two captains at the time that did that, I was in a super fucking bad place at the time. And that award and that kind of accommodation that dug me out of where I was. So even not going to that training, which was awesome, that whole thing, I highly, anybody that on here is a cop that hasn't gone to the IACP training stuff, I highly suggest it, or if you can. But that dug me out of the hole that I was in because it wasn't a good place where I was. But that alone, I don't know if they know this or not, but that saved my ass. So cheers to them for doing that.
Training and just networking alone, that does,
Yeah.
it revitalizes your career at certain
Yeah.
points. I'm all for it. That last few years, I went to one or two, but I believe the lower chain of command should, uh,
We went to one, right? Yeah, same one.
yeah,
In Florida? Where was that one at?
Dallas.
Dallas.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dallas.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a cool one because I had lots of good training
Yeah,
though.
it's Dallas.
I think it was Dallas. But all of the different.
But it's a network component for me again, going back to learning from someone else.
Mhm.
You're there with law enforcement folks from all over the country, world, really.
Yeah.
Some come from other countries, and it's those small conversations. If you take the time, again, be proactive.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just can't walk around and be yourself, but it's those conversations and, hey, what are you doing for this? And, or how are you remedying that? And are you seeing this issue? And you all
Mhm.
have the same issue.
Yeah.
Man, you have to try that. Um,
What was the hardest rank change for you and why?
Sergeant. Yeah. I love patrol. I said that over and over. I got in that role and was like looking at all these faces, and it's like not all of them have the same work ethic as me. Not
Mhm.
all of them think like me. And it's like I worked very good in isolation or attracting folks that want to work with me on a squad and getting things done. And now I've got to inspire the
Yeah.
squad. And sometimes you're looking at a face just like, he don't like doing nothing. She don't like doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
And as a sergeant, speaking for other sergeants, they like that. I'm
Mhm.
glad they're not doing nothing.
No work.
That is bad because the bad night of manpower and you have two or more of your worst that do nothing go to the worst call. Guess who's holding the bag for the paperwork that goes up and how it's written and all of the things that follow that? You're the sergeant or maybe a lieutenant. Uh, so that rank, like, I almost felt a level of clinical depression. I was telling my wife, I was like, I don't know about this, but she taught me out of it. So I thought, okay, I want to use the same mental techniques I use as an officer to keep a work ethic going. I'm going to use that as a sergeant. So I was just like, okay, I may not get you to do something exactly like I do, but
Mhm.
I'm going to get you to think about the mistake you made. How can you do it different? I want to get you to think about you witnessed something happen. Why aren't you reacting to it? I know you're not proactive, but I just want to hear on why. You're sitting in this particular zone with all this traffic. I noticed that we have all these complaints and I don't hear or see any enforcement. Can you Tell me why. And I
Mhm.
noticed over time, you start challenging people like that, they actually take it, uh, in a challenging way, and they get defensive. I never could understood that. Over time, I think that's when I learned, like, lead by example. Get out there and do it. Go
Yeah.
back to my roots. Yeah. You know, they're not gonna tell them to do it. I'm getting this complaint in this area for whatever it is, and I've asked you or I've told you, I'll just go do it myself. And then, then their peers like, man, well, Sarge is having to go over there. Don't worry. Well, it was just difficult for me, but it grew on me over time. So I'm like, hey, I can do the same thing. So just in a different manner, different degree. I have to learn how to lead now and try to inspire them. So that's what I did. I tried to um, lead by example and do those things. And I could.
I'll say that you were one of the few that kept respect as you went up, because I feel like sometimes there's a detachment, or I mean, I could go on the whole spiel of this stuff, but I'm just gonna say, you can elaborate if you want to, but I was hopeful. I left out for my reasons, but I was hoping when I left out, I was like, well, maybe if MJ becomes chief, this stuff can change around a little bit and it will slowly change out. We probably won't see it within a decade, but it could change for the betterment of the city as a whole. Um, and then you retired, and I was like, fuck.
What? Um,
Did you have aspirations? Or if you want to
Look,
elaborate,
I
I feel
just
like you
told
got
you I
to.
was almost clinically depressed for being a sergeant. So
Well, we're going to go full
I
depression.
appreciate that. I'll say this that no, that's not an aspiration. Being promoted wasn't necessarily an aspiration. It's what led me down that road. But going back to my
Yeah.
financial wellness, I was planting seeds. It didn't matter to me where I went.
Mm,
I feel like in a divine way, like I just naturally was getting some things asked for after 10, 12 years finally,
yeah.
uh, and fell into positions that I could influence some folks and say, hey, there's a way to do this job and have fun and stay out of trouble
Yeah.
and stay out of lawsuits. But that was not an aspiration going in the background. If it was, I can't say that I would not would be, but um, I had planted so many seeds in my personal life. I've also felt like at the time I left, I want to leave while there's not a lot of negative things going on because a lot of times you have someone at that point in their career or in that level of chain of command, it's usually something negative that drives them out.
Yeah.
It's usually a negative incident, it's a negative relationship, a thing happened, and I mulled over it for a little over a year. I've been thinking about it already for that length of time. I could jump off this ship and just make it flourish even more, or I could stay here and well, being a chief of police, as far as I understand and know from watching ours, it is a tough job. Uh, but going back to how I learned to be a sergeant is you got to learn to lead and inspire and give energy to those under you. I would have loved to have done that at that level. I tried to utilize it at the levels given to me, and I felt like at that time as I left, I want to leave while I'm kind of feel like I'm on top. I don't really
Yeah.
wait till that negative thing happens, that incident,
Yeah.
that rumor that's half true, half not true, whatever, what have you. Leave it a moment, and that was the right moment.
Are you glad that you gained the rank that you did, or do you wish that you would have stayed at a certain rank?
Well, no, I'm very grateful for all the transitions that I had because it was
Yeah.
growth. Each one, as you say, level, chain of command, promotion, it gave me another thing to talk about, like we are doing now. I definitely can see a different perspective of things. I do not regret any of that because as an officer, if I'd stayed an officer, I would
Mhm.
only have that officer perspective, and
Yeah.
that's not wrong to have. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I would not have those additional perspectives. Kind of like going back to being able to learn something as an officer from other officers, even if you don't like them. It's the same way in the chain of command. If you feel like you don't gel with somebody in the chain of command, we don't okay, get promoted, make a change. That's kind of what inspired me initially. But then I saw the friction of that. I was like, oh, this is getting a little, the bureaucracy and the politics of the whole thing kind of, but I manage. I do not regret it. it was the right time for me. I didn't want to wait until that thing happened or a thing happened, and
Yeah.
because every person or individual that has let, there's always that residual, and I hate that for whoever that might be. They talk about them to whatever degree, and
Mhm.
it's like it diminishes their entire career. And I know what an officer has to go through. And even those officers that are looked at negatively now, they have some characteristic, whether it's an anti-authoritative type characteristic in their tenure, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then they leave because of some negative thing. They don't go back and see
Mhm.
that shooting they were involved in, or
Yep.
all the deceased individuals they had to deal with
Mhm.
as investigator, what have you. They don't. It's like they dismiss every bit of that. And it's
Yep.
like, really? We're gonna have all these backroom
Mhm.
discussions about he's a piece of garbage, and I know firsthand what that person's been through.
Y
I'm not saying you don't address their negative trait. I'm not saying you don't address their mistakes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying,
Oh,
let's just have an open conversation about who they are, bring them in and talk about
yeah.
those things because they might need some help. First off,
Mhm.
they didn't get help. We're just now getting into that mental health awareness thing. They didn't get that. People that came up in you and I's era did not have that, and we're just now talking about it. I guess they may have still some trauma that they're trying to deal with.
Mm. Yeah, I don't even think we still do a very good job of it, from January.
January?
From, from Holman.
Oh, yeah. That
Yeah. It was not ideal, but
was, definitely a unique. I don't know what to say about that. That's tough.
I mean, I got a lot to say about it, but, it's just
Yeah. First met Holman, he called me, from one of a property that I owned about a call. The neighbor called, thought somebody it was vacant,
mm.
and I don't know how, I don't know if he
Are you
looked
a
around.
slumlord?
Huh?
Are you a
No, no,
slumlord?
no, no. He said, well, dispatch had me calling, and that's how I first, um no, actually, he worked west for a little while, didn't he?
Yeah,
Became
yeah.
sergeant. I met him over there, but I first started engaging, like, talking with him on a more regular basis. Damn, he called me, and he said, "We got this call. Are you in this house?" I said, "Through the grapevine, this is what I've learned," and I was
Mhm.
really intrigued by how he figured that out because you look up tax records, my name's not on it, but he figured it out anyway. He called me, and oh, I know what it was. It was in some dispatch notes. I
Mm.
made sure that happened. Sorry. And I went over there and met with him, and I really found him to be that guy that got into stuff. Like, he loved police work,
Yeah,
but I could also see he's the guy that might also, looking back, this is retrospect after what's happened.
yeah.
I'm not being dismissive of what happened to him. I'm just explaining my thought process. Looking back at that first or that one encounter and feeling, man, this guy likes to work.
Mhm.
He likes to investigate stuff. I mean,
Yeah. He's good.
that was 1037, and he and another officer worked that. Um, and then moving forward, he and I had some text messages here and there, and then he moved north, and then I wound up being his chain of command for a short time. Um, I do feel like all people, a small amount of guilt, like,
Mhm.
man, maybe I could have engaged him a little more, or maybe there was
Mhm.
something I could have done. We can't go on feeling like that. People are people. When they want to do something like that, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
You should not feel, um, it- so much guilt that you destroy yourself. Just learn from it. Learn from it, and if you see those signs or signals from somebody else, guess what? Because you learn from it, you're
Mhm.
gonna try to help that next person.
What's something that you regretted about your different ranks?
No, I don't have any regrets. You can't do everything, in the department or any agency. You organically take a path, and it happens. So I live more like whatever's given or I've earned,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna utilize it to its maximum. That's what I wanna try to do, if you allow me. If you allow me. If you don't and you start putting roadblocks in front of me, I'll pull back, and then I'll just lay down because it's what you want. You don't want anything done. So I don't regret any of it. I really don't. I mean, there's more I wished I could have done, but you
Yeah.
can't do everything. It's a police agency ours is small, but it's massive. It's got a lot of moving
Yeah.
parts. I really respect those that have a niche and get in something. I envy them to a degree, but I do not regret the diversity that I got of knowledge through crime scene supervision.
I forgot you did crime scene for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't want that job either. It seems like I was
Really?
getting jobs I really didn't like. But again, back just to me, just my personal character, that's fine. That's cool. You want me to
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you that I can do anything. I appreciate you want me to do something nobody else wants to do, but I'll make this fun, uh, and do a good job. So, but to your main question, regret, I don't regret any of it. I really don't. It's made me who I am today.
Was there a pivotal moment where you felt that change in your point of view or that change in how you looked at stuff, be it Freeman getting murdered, the different big incidents that we've had throughout the department throughout your tenure?
So, yeah, it'd have to be mm, officers killed in the line of duty, Golden, namely. Uh, but that that what was your question again? I'm sorry. That you just took me off guard with that, but
Sorry, was there any moment that changed your mindset in policing?
that did. I was always very officer safety minded
Mhm,
and always try to be very professional, but pulling up on that call and seeing what I saw and rehearsing the events and the seconds and the minutes, and then wishing had I been there literally 90 seconds, 2 minutes sooner, I would be in a gunfight with them,
mhm.
along with the 2 or 3 other officers that also there about the same time I was. That changed a lot for me. That day, I was actually in an FTO phase training someone, and they were driving. And, back then, I don't know if they do it a lot now, but the FTO would ride around in plain clothes in the passenger seat
Mhm.
last phase, and that's the phase we're in. But for whatever reason, that day, I was still in uniform, and being observation phase, just chose to do that. I can't remember exactly what, but that did change that. I never rode plain clothes again as an FTO, and everybody has their opinion on that. It changed that. It also changed my perspective on officer safety, not from mistakes I think Golden made, but from how you do things, period. From the call, that particular call um, was actually stemming from a situation I had the night prior. I had actually been there with a couple other officers. It was a domestic. And when I heard that call come out, I knew it was not a sign to me, but I knew that, hey, look, I think let's ride over there. And I told the person that I was training, like, hey, let's head that way. But then he's like, hey, you ain't got no gas. And I was like, okay, well, we're not assigned, but it was low key. But again, it
Yeah.
was a domestic from the earlier night that involved a 1049 that I was like, "Hey, this is a good one to take to him," because I remember a subsequent report was made and whatnot. I thought maybe it had warrants, I don't know, but we're gonna go to that, and then he brings up, "Hey, stop for gas." It was stopping for gas that kept us from being there probably before at the same time. And when we arrived, um, or as we were, arriving, hearing the radio traffic and everything was just, it's something replayed in my mind a lot. But what it changed for me was how I did the job, officer safety wise, everything. Like I said, I didn't wear those plain clothes as an FTO. Um, just carried myself a little bit differently for a little while on calls.
We have not talked about Golden on here, so our audience doesn't really know about him because we've talked about Freeman forward, I'd say.
Mhm.
Um, w do you wanna say what happened to Golden?
There was a call there was a call the night before at the
Mm,
location. You know when you hear those, they come out in that moment, you're hearing, he's like, "Oh, I was there the other night," and, we started heading that direction, and that's where, my trainee said, I'm not gonna use the word Ricky.
You
I
can
think
use the word
it's more
Ricky.
professional. I want people to feel like they have value. You say Ricky a lot now. I said, "Alright, let's stop and get gas," and it was very casual, but he arrived, it was maybe as he was hanging the gas pump up or as we are pulling out of the gas pumps there on Putman, and, it was just right down Jordan Lane, and I ended up hearing his button pop a couple times. I couldn't raise him. I knew something bad was happening, you know? Um, and then dispatch started getting secondary calls. 911 was being called of the shooting, right? So this is
Yeah.
hindsight. They saw this officer, they saw him get shot, or they saw the shooting again or heard it. So they're calling 911. So there was time, believe it or not, time enough for that to happen and dispatch put it back out. And
Wow. Yeah.
dispatch, there's delays. Well, this happened very fast. So they were just, I got to give kudos to dispatchers that day. That came out within seconds. So the shooting happened, calls are coming in very quickly, and they're saying, "Hey, we're getting called, we're getting forward calls," and
Mhm.
we're just about to pull up, and I'll never forget the saddened feeling I had of seeing the HPD uniform just laying on the ground, the
Mhm.
perspective where you're pulling up, and you know what's happened. You know you cannot help at that point. You can only mitigate, like, assess, and there was a large group of people in the parking lot, and now you've gotta discern, okay, where's my aggressor? Where's my offender? And getting out of the car, there was a first shift officer going home. They got there first before Golden's assist, and then there was another officer on my squad that had gotten there, and we had pulled up about the same time prior to that first shift officer. There was actually an officer who got hired later that was working at the airport that
Mm.
also pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
But just seeing him laying there and instantly I knew it's like, "Okay, that's not survivable." I then went immediately into, uh, assessment mode of where's our offender and people pointing. It was pretty chaotic. Initially, we were getting, probably wrong reports of the offender ran around the building, so we're
Mhm.
sending people in that direction, canines coming, have them go that way. But the entire time, there was a smaller group of people pointing to one person, and that was Benito Alvarez, who I think that's his last name. Yeah.
Mm.
Smoking a cigarette. And I'll never forget as these folks are like, they're 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 demonstrating physically what I felt like, oh, that's the shooter, but they seem shy, like, does he still have the gun or what's going on? And this man is smoking a cigarette. This is our shooter, and this is about 15 yards away. I remember pulling out my gun and pointing it at him, a couple of officers and directing them were walking towards him, and these folks start moving away from him, and he's not reacting to what we're doing. So, in my mind, I'm like, if I'm in his shoes and I'm standing there with cops with guns at me, I'm gonna be acting a certain way, right?
Mhm.
And he's not. So I'm like, okay, this must be him. There was a secondary gun at Golden's feet or nearby that wound up being his because he used it to execute him.
Mm.
And there was not a gun this 15 yards away where I was seeing, so I was confused. I was very conflicted. Oh, we're just going to take him into custody because they're pointing at him for now. And I remember taking him into custody and just the blank, nonchalant um, look he had on his face, smoking a cigarette, like he was just outside taking a break from work or something. Um, Meanwhile, Golden's lifeless over here. He gave his life. That was a tough day. It was something that resonated throughout the department with a lot of different things, training and, um, our weapons, you
Mhm.
know, was there weapon malfunction? No, there was not a that all those rumors and all those talks of all those different things started happening, then not long after that, we transitioned to finally another weapon. Uh, that was a difficult day. Um, um, from what I recall, I think the vest may have caught a bullet or two, didn't catch all of them, but, like I said, as tough it is, he executed them. That's what he did, uh, while he was tried to figure out what to do with his weapon that was stovepipe, and that was a topic that is taboo, but, I'm retired now, I'll talk about it. Uh, Stovepipe or misfeed, whatever you wanna call it. I'll
Mhm.
let the gun gurus talk about it, but it was just how fragile life is. It was how important your training and the maintenance of your weapon is. Not saying that his was not, but it was the epitome of, "Hey, let's
Yeah.
pay attention to these things." And I remember that as a sergeant and as a lieutenant when it came to weapons inspections and stuff. Every now
Yeah.
and then throwing out there, "How many rounds do you have?" "Let me see your weapon for a second."
Mhm.
Actually doing a weapons inspection, I thought about Daniel.
Do you think if his weapon had stovepipe that he would be alive today?
I don't know, but Benito might not be at that time. He
Yeah.
killed himself in prison, but he would have emptied his magazine unabated with whatever. I don't wanna misspeak on
Mhm.
what happened to his weapon, and it is what it is. But that issue,
Mhm.
whatever that was, it prevented from emptying his magazine on him because he still held it. Uh, like I said, I may not be speaking on it, with the most critical detail. There's now that comes to mind, somebody mentioning limp wristing after you've been hit. Uh, well, there's some weapons, even when you do that, that's not an issue. So I don't know if that was with a Beretta, if that was an Italian-made one or American-made one, but my point is, his death and all that he went through brought up a transition in the department to pay attention to these things. That was a very important lesson in that, not looking at, uh, what did he do wrong or did
Mhm.
anybody else do wrong? It was, what can we do to make this better? And that's what I try to base my career on, learn from these lessons. That was a the lessons learned in that situation, they were, uh, we learned them on the back of someone that laid their life, and I hate that, but we can't ignore it, and all the way
Yeah.
up to the Freeman incident and how that went down. We can't beat ourselves up over that.
Mhm.
We can't, but you gotta talk about it. It should come up in every academy class and every training class when it comes to, hailing calls and weapons and how we, maintain them.
I was hired shortly after, uh, Golden was murdered, and they were very clear on because we still had the Berettas, so they were very clear on training and his story and all this other stuff. So even though it took a while longer to change out guns, we never know the lives that are saved. You know what I mean? So we don't know what lives are saved because of what happened to Golden, but I'd like to say that at least better training did occur.
Actually, I could add to that,
Yeah.
what really sticks out, not just besides that whole thing, was watching his family
How so?
at the hospital, at the funeral, just the anguish, the 25 years,
Yeah,
25
dude.
years.
At the
And
time,
but
it seems old. It's
and
so
he
young.
was like a lot of us in that he was a go-getter, he was proactive, but he didn't get in trouble. He was proactive, and he wasn't lawsuit prone. He had been there 3 years, and he loved to work. I went to many calls with him. Our off days had overlapped, we worked 4 days together. I went to many calls with him, in those 2.5, 3 years. And he was the guy. He wasn't going to shirk a call or nothing. He was going to go and call. He would take a call for a senior officer, and he's the guy that lost it. There was a person that in the department that um, you wouldn't think that would happen to, or they would be able to navigate a situation and come out unscathed. It would have been him because he'd been in so many different little situations. But
Mhm.
that day, he wasn't. So
This is a weird question, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. I feel most of the officers, there's one that I would single out, but I feel like most of the officers that we've lost or that have been murdered in the last, since from him on have been um very proactive. And it's like those are the ones I thought would never happen. Wouldn't Nothing would ever happen to. And I don't know if it's just because they were always in the middle of everything, which isn't a bad thing. There's lots of people that are always in the middle of everything. It's just I feel like they're always a hit, like, "Shit, we can die from this." Because those are the ones I would have never have figured something would have happened to because they were so good with officer safety and everything that they did.
to that point, Daniel came in the roll call room every day, and he kept up the in the line of duty, what's it, memorial page officers that were
Yeah.
killed, and he updated it on a whiteboard. Proactive, and he kept up with and adored. Man, these guys gave their life.
Mhm.
Was he subconsciously doing that to himself? I don't know, but I can tell you, he didn't. He wanted to be there, and he was reminding us every day he came in the roll call room by doing that he wasn't scared to do the job. If you walk in fear and doing this job, you're not going to be a proactive person.
Mhm.
There is a healthy amount of fear, and then there's the amount of fear where you do nothing. The healthy amount of fear helps you do things as tactically as you can. The wrong amount of fear is the fear that keeps you under the shade tree, keeps you reading all them promotional books and not learn the job first.
Yeah. You get off the street as soon as possible kinda cuff, yeah. Hmm. Did you
Uh,
stay after he died? Did you, stay on that squad for a while?
oh god, that I did, but
Mm,
everybody else it seemed it somewhere on some promotional list, and as you would have it, they started getting promoted. Some left, and it was really strange. The squad broke up, and that's why when Crumby happened, I respected how folks felt, but I encouraged them to stick together. But I also intuitively understood how they felt when they came in, looking at one another every day moving forward. I understood that.
mhm,
This wasn't about Crumby per se. It's about coming in and, I want to do something else. They couldn't look at their coworkers, and I'm sure there's many other aspects, and be in that environment and feel like they're gonna grow anymore. Are they gonna stay there and be stagnant or be depressed? Or I understand that because that's what happened to us. As you would have it, some got promoted already. They were on the list, and
mhm.
then I would say a few months after that, we had an opportunity for shift change, which that doesn't happen often that or now it happens like twice a year.
Yeah, yeah.
So I took advantage of that next round, which it was every other year or something you had a chance for that,
Mhm.
and I put in for third shift, and when I hit third shift, I was like, "Man, I should have done this years ago." I was like, "This what y'all do? It's not that hot out here." The pavement's still hot,
Yeah.
but, yeah, so we did split up, and I only did it because I saw others leaving, and I
Mhm.
didn't wanna rebuild. I did not have, the bandwidth to rebuild a culture in a squad, or you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
I waited to see what others would do, and they did what they did. Some left, like I said, by promotion or what have you, and I just said, "Okay, I'm gonna go
Mhm.
to third shift."
I would imagine, and somehow I've always been there, but been there in a supervisory or a different way with all the different officers that have passed, when I have been here or there. But with the different squads I've seen and they show up and it's like even if you get new people in, like say you get 5 new people it's still like that unspoken thing of you weren't there, so it's still not tight.
Yeah.
Did you think it was kinda like that where you're not trying to be mean to him, but it's like you weren't there, so you're still on the outskirts kinda thing?
Um, no, I can see that perspective. I think I did the right thing for a lot of reasons. You give opportunity for others to come in and build their own culture and let that
Yeah.
chain of command kind of help build that. But again, kind of to what you're saying, I was trying to present. I think some of those officers remember. I remember coming to their roll call and telling them when crime happened, look, I know you may have this desire. You want to just
Mhm.
go to another ship, go to another squad. I want all of you to try to stay here stay here as long as you can and try to work through this for each other and
Yeah.
feed off one another because some of you may have more of an issue than others, and you could help one another. If y'all go to different parts of the department or different shifts, that could affect that. So just
Mhm.
give it some time. I don't know how that turned out for some of them, but I do know most of them stayed.
Yeah.
I think several of them are still on the same squad. If you want to move on and get promoted, that's one
Mhm.
thing. But if you were literally thinking, hey, I'm exiting because of that,
Mhm.
don't let that be the reason. Don't let that be the reason. You could pass on a lot of lessons learned to the next person coming in that squad.
Yeah. Well, to change topics a little bit, uh, what's a question that you wish somebody had asked you that they didn't throughout your supervisory career?
I don't know how to answer that.
In a good or bad way?
Yeah, I I guess so many folks did ask me a lot of things, so I can't
Yeah.
think of a question that wished they would have it. Man, there's people that dumped on me. I didn't mind it. I loved helping other officers because
Yeah.
they're the fabric of what holds the department together, and
Mhm.
I don't think that really resonates with the whole chain of command all the way up to I'm not gonna say all the way up
Mhm.
to those civilians that have not been police officers understand that that culture is very critical and important.
Mhm.
You can shut down a proactive culture like that,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot you can do about it. If they're answering their calls, there's not a lot you can do about it. So I would like to think I've answered every question possible because I've had a lot of officers come and I think once you hit a certain level of chain of command, maybe they're apprehensive.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to go to him about that. There's not one question that I wish somebody would ask me. Just,
I'm gonna ask you if you got anything else to say before I ask my or I got one question left really that I wanna ask you.
um, let's see.
You with those glasses, man.
Yeah, I'm reading.
You look young as hell until you put on those glasses.
I can't see unless I'm reading. I'm finding more time to read, by the way, since I'm
Are you?
reading a few
Oh,
books.
I highly suggest Andy Stump. Have you listened to Cleared Hot at all? Or Andy Stump,
What's that?
retired Navy SEAL. He's got a great book out I'm gonna tell you about. It's fucking phenomenal. Yeah, go for it.
But you talk about professionalism
Yeah,
and those things that make a complete officer and knowledge and all that.
yeah,
I was watching a video on social media the other day. A guy was talking about KFC versus Chick-fil-A.
yeah.
Yeah. Boy, why are you looking at me like
It's like
that? It's chicken. It's just chicken.
same.
But he was talking about the successfulness between the two companies
Uh-huh.
and the fact that, KFC had, I don't remember the date of this actual video being made.
Mhm.
So it could have been a year old, 2 years old. I'll make sure. So listeners understand I'm not quoting this exactly, but they have 34 locations to generate, I think, is a certain amount of revenue or what have you.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A generates more with 4,000 locations. And he did whatever he did behind the scenes to study it or figure out why. And I just remember him going on and talking about time they spend training people and then the continuing training they give them
Yeah.
to be hospitable, to know their duties and what they're doing. Imagine what you're doing to police officers.
Oh
If you
god.
train them, FTO phase. and they're not getting anything else beyond that. Now, we did a great job, I think, with in-service and opening up the doors to outside training, which that budget's limited.
Yep.
Bringing we now do a decent job with hosts coming to the academy, but it's that training and ingraining a hospitable attitude. I cannot stand a police officer that steps out of their car and carry themselves in a way that turns a citizen off. There's a professional way to speak to someone. Some people are having the worst day of their life. They're angry. They're mad. They're not mad at you. They're mad at what's happened to them. So my point is, you have a company that sells chicken and they've perfected a process. I think in law enforcement, we got to learn how to perfect certain processes on teaching people to be professional. It was very irritating to see supervisors in rank be rude and ugly.
Mhm.
And then now there's times when you be direct and assertive. There's a difference. There's a way to say no and then explain to some degree why you're saying no. I think that professionalism and that hospitality type attitude, it follows you all the way through your career. And if you're a do nothing officer, you're going to be a do nothing all the way to the chain of command, going to be unprofessional and
Mhm.
viewed by the lower chain of command down to the officer like, what does he know? What does she know? They're rude. They're just
Mhm.
going to say no. So they're not going to ask or understand why, why not?
Yeah. I under I get when they have a hard day and they're continually frustrated, but I also think that our sergeants, and I'll say as a sergeant or lieutenant, whatever, that it's their job to give that positive experience to the
It
officers.
is.
And because they're not going to get it from the community 9 times out
That's
of
right.
10. They're not going to fucking get it. So I think we've made a turn where a lot of our sergeants now, and I'm not going to call everybody out, lieutenant, whatever, but I think I'll say a lot of our supervisors now become another negative experience instead of helping to, promote them into not like promote them into different roles, but just promote them in general to make them have a positive experience. And I think that's why we see such a fracture in officers now where they just see negative because nobody puts that positive in their life, you know?
A squad is going to emulate the energy
Yeah.
or lack thereof of their
Mhm.
sergeant, so on and so on and so on, all the way up the chain.
Yep.
It if you lack giving inspiration and
Mhm.
energy and, being knowledgeable, if you're the
Mhm.
guy that can only say yes and no, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a problem with that.
Mhm.
It goes back to it goes back to experience. If you were a do
Mhm.
nothing officer, you didn't answer calls and repetitiously deal with all these issues with citizens and community policing and being proactive, you're not going to be a knowledgeable supervisor. You're just
Yep.
not. I think to the flip side of that, being like I said, being a butthole of a supervisor
Mhm.
when you tell someone no or you're having to address a problem with someone. You
Mhm.
could also be a passive aggressive supervisor and be very cryptic, say
Mhm.
nothing, lay low, don't do anything. That's
Yep.
just as bad. Officers having issues or learning, they need communication.
Yeah. Because how can we
Yeah.
expect something better from them if we're not willing to tell them what that better is?
It, there's a way to deal with everyone, and you got to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And remember, you were an officer too. So have a conversation. If you have to start yelling and cursing,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna have to call you. I've never done that. I have not done that. And whoever's
No.
listening to this, I want them to call you and say, when I have been so upset with how they dealt with something, the ability to control your emotions start as an officer.
Mhm.
If you can't control your emotions as an officer or learn how to, you're not going to do them as a sergeant. You're not going to do this as a lieutenant. You're not going to do
Mhm.
this as a captain, as a deputy chief, as a chief. You're going to
Yep.
resort to doing the two things I just said, either being aggressive or passive aggressive. That's
Mhm.
what you're going to be. You're not going to be knowledgeable. You're not going to
Mhm.
be inspirational to someone and energize that chain of command that you need to do the things you need to do. So that's my take on that. You could be one of the two.
Yep.
And my focus was just communicating. And again, I'm not gonna argue over the no. I gave him a reason, and that's it.
Mhm.
If it's a yes, that's a win for them.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, he said yes. Uh, But I think, over time, that is something that really frustrated me was individuals that couldn't control their emotions.
Mhm.
They became so angry in a conversation because I just here wouldn't do what I said or this and that, that it's like, you know what you're doing? You're acting like a child just like they are.
Yeah.
You're behaving exactly like they are. You are
Yep.
so angry that you can't have a discussion.
Mhm.
And I'm not being braggadocious, but as much as I put myself out there as a patrol officer and seen the things that I did and dealt with the things that I did, I can honestly say I never mistreated anyone. And as I got promoted, I wanted to
Mhm.
make sure I could have those hard conversations
Yeah.
without losing control.
My theory is you've seen the scary, right? You've seen what's actually scary. So conversations aren't scary to you. They're fucking talking.
Right.
And those people that I think in those positions, they don't know what real scary is.
That you just hit the nail on the head. Those that get promoted and exude some of those characteristics that I was just talking about,
Mhm.
they're either really aggressive or they're passive aggressive. It's from not it just doesn't apply all the time, but it's the majority of the time. They weren't able to handle being in the street and working with in environments and dealing with different things.
Yeah.
They were your call dodgers. They feared further education.
Mhm.
Not all of them. And they fear the conversation, no. And
Mhm.
that's something rooted inside. You go to your primal brain when you're scared. And in a conversation, when you're scared and you're knowledgeable, you're going to get aggressive. That's what happens. When I don't know something, I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
I'll say, look, I need to get back with you. I don't know how to answer that. Instead of getting upset. If I'm unknowledgeable about that in that conversation, I'm just going to say, hey, I hear you. And you know what? That sounds like a really good valid point, but I'm going to get back with you. I want to check on that because I'm not really understanding it.
Mhm.
I want to get some more information. Instead of, like I said, the iron fist or no, you're not tough. That
Yep. And I don't know the solution to it because if it's that embedded, it's gonna take a while to get that corrected. So
um
cheers to
yeah, it starts with a starts in the academy and then the STO and so on and so forth. It just takes a lot of someone or those within the top looking down and trying to tweak those personalities. Like, for example, there's nothing wrong with addressing rumors, and
yeah,
someone so said, okay, but talk
yeah,
to them.
let's talk
Bring them
to
to the office. Say, hey, I'm hearing X, Y, and Z. What's going on? Is everything okay? I'm hearing, or if okay, here's another example. It's more direct. Hey, I noticed in the meeting you seem really upset. What's going on? By you were
Mhm.
engaged. I called for this meeting because I'm trying to solve a problem over here, and I noticed you were over there like rolling your eyes, being childish, and I think it's only an adult
Mhm.
thing to ask. Say, is everything
Yeah.
okay? And that's not done anymore.
Mm. I will say as just a lieutenant, I did so much better when I got reasons why. And a lot of times I could never get the reasons why, like, "Hey, cool, this is a decision, but just tell me why so I can better understand the decision." And a lot of times we weren't given that, and I know it's because of incompetency. Wait, now you say the word right.
Yeah.
Incompetence or
It's
just not wanting to give it. And I'm like, "But if there is like again, I always go back to if you're making a professional and sound decision, there should be bulleted reasons that you could
there
say
is.
why. And, people are either
There is.
scared to
Hey,
say
look,
it or
when I was a captain and you were on West, I mean, we did you and I didn't always disagree, but did we have a
yeah.
problem?
Yeah,
Did
it
we
was
have a
just
problem?
no.
No, we if there was something we disagreed about, we talked about it
Yeah.
and we came to an agreement to a point. Or
And if it was it's like, well, he's got rank, he makes the final decision. That's what it was, you
yeah,
know?
but at the same time, and when it comes to a situation like that, make the final decision. Like,
Yeah.
I want to some amount of degree to be palatable, right? Like,
Yeah.
here's what I'm saying, Tess. I'm saying when somebody uses rank to make a decision out
Mhm.
of their positional authority, they're nothing. If you can't influence people by your character, your personality, you're not again, here we go. Not what I knowledge,
Mhm.
experience, ability to do the job, relate. If you can't help someone understand that based on those things, God help whoever you're working for, because your agency's not going to grow. Your chain of command you have is not going to grow. They're not going to be as successful as they could be. That is what really, um, how do I say it? That as I left, seeing a little bit of that,
Mhm.
peppered throughout the department, that did frustrate me, because I also have to have backing for, again, proactivity, those
Mhm.
proactive supervisory things that we need to do when it comes to that. And if I do too much of it, it's like, MJ, what are you doing? Oh, okay, go back in your corner. Don't do any shade tree. Don't try to make that more efficient. Don't try to stop it. We don't need all these meetings. Just stop.
Mhm.
Just lay low.
And you can't. If you're gonna grow any department and make it what it should be, you can't do that. Gotta be forward thinking and willing to change things and perpetually look at things. Nothing is ever gonna be, and I'm not gonna get on a soapbox here, but nothing can ever be stagnant in a police department because it should perpetually change. Communities change, laws change, generations change. So you have to have meetings to be willing to change. And I think it's scary for people, you know?
Yeah, I say beans. I mean, implementing a new process.
Mhm.
It could be asking for a new piece of equipment, things that will not just generate positivity and officer safety and things like that that help a department, but it helps the morale.
Yeah.
Uh, and I hate to say this, but morale is very critical to all those other things we
God,
talked
yeah.
about, the proactivity and professionalism and how officers treat
Recruitment.
citizens. Yeah. If if morale isn't good, it's easy as a supervisor to say, they can't get what they want all the time. Yeah, we know that. But it's how you're presenting it. It's how are you saying
Mhm.
to them. When they come to you, are you just telling them hey, leave us alone? Is
Yeah.
that attitude you're projecting? Or are you saying, hey, I appreciate what you're bringing up. Look, this just isn't the right time right now.
Mhm.
Whether budget constraints, what have you, whatever it is. Okay, just briefly explain. Say, look, I'm not debating this, but this is why. You're just going to have to wait. It's the tone, everything. But again, when you become in a position of power, how you
Mhm.
treat someone as an officer and you become in a position of power, that's how you're going to treat others and your subordinates the same way. You know,
I'm I'm a firm believer that the higher you go in rank, the more your, uh, fallacies are magnified. So you gotta be aware of them, and the more aware of you
that is a good way of putting that.
the more aware of them you are, the more you can combat them or admit to them and then get advice elsewhere. Like, "Hey," in my case, "Am I being stubborn about this? Do I need to not to fight this so hard?" But it was hard because I didn't have a lot of people to really talk to, on that rank side of stuff, but,
Yeah, and
you know
it's easy as a supervisor to diminish how someone else feels.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, controlling emotions is important, but you got to consider how they feel to a
Mhm.
degree. If you don't, you're not going to get the best out of them. And so the question is, do you want to get the best out of this squad? Do you want to get the best out of this chain of command? All right. So how are you going to handle that meeting? Are you going to come in and be the what? Are you going to be an aggressive supervisor? No, 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 no. Not tell why. Or
Mhm.
are you going to be a passive aggressive supervisor? Not even go to roll call, not even say anything. Be real cryptic with everything you
Yep.
say
Yeah.
and just sit back and be reactive, wait on a
Mhm.
problem to happen that's near lawsuit worthy?
Yep.
Or are you going to communicate? Are you going to resort back to your days on the street? In retirement, I still love law enforcement. I will always miss the grassroots of the job. That's what officers do in the community. Love doing the job. Made a ton of mistakes, but also planted seeds to help this side of my life. You
Mhm.
know, and that's the retirement side. You can't do the job forever. Your family needs you, and my family's growing. I got my third grandkid on the way. See, if I were to dedicate this podcast, it'd be to I got a granddaughter that's about to be born,
Yeah.
and she will never know me in uniform. Haven't been in
Crazy.
uniform. And this is a part of my life where I'm gonna take those skills I learned in law enforcement and apply it within my life. That is very valuable to me. it's provide an opportunity for me to help my son. His business is going to provide opportunity and more time for me to help my grandkids grow because I'm not tied and consumed with the department. Don't get me wrong, I sorely miss it. I miss it. But I also know that youth only lasts so long, and we need to take these experiences and use them in a positive way for the rest of your life. If you don't, then you'll retire at a, you know, old grumpy cop.
Well, I hope the audio wasn't too torturous for you and that it didn't lose its impact because of my error, but I will do better. I promise I'll do better. That being said, if you guys have any further questions for him that I did not ask, feel free to email me, message me on any of the platforms, those questions, and how we'll get with him and see if we can get him in for another episode. I think he might be down. You guys should definitely throw those questions out, and I'll hit him up and see. Also, housekeeping stuff, please make sure to subscribe, like, share, all that other good stuff so I can keep this thing going. It is an awesome hobby, which I love to do. So I will continue to do this for the foreseeable future. However, if you guys do want to give back some, we do have a shop up. If you guys want to get some stuff, that would be awesome. It's on the website, halfseriouspodcast.com. And hopefully here soon, we're going to have some brand new custom artwork on our t-shirts. My niece, who's a freaking phenomenal artist, is drawing some stuff up now, and I'm already stoked about some of the stuff she's done. So, all right, that's it. I hope you guys have a freaking phenomenal week. And as always, if you know somebody that should be a guest, or if you want to be a guest, be sure to hit us up, Tess at halfseriesllc.com, and we'll have you on. All right, have a freaking awesome week.